Alright, opening up the Rough Country kit. It's part number 52200. There was a part number I saw 52200_A. So I thought they sent me the wrong one at first, but I called Rough Country and they said this is the correct one, whether it's a Lightning or not. So I'll trust them on that and assume that that's correct. We'll see. But anyway, here's the hardware. Here's the pucks. And some instructions. I'm going to use these. I'm also going to be using some notes I saw online from some other folks to help me figure this out. Here we go. Rough Country helpfully included not only the tools list, but also the torque specs list. So you can have these here. Pause if you need to. So we should be good there. All right, here's the tool list. Jack stands, probably more than one jack stand. You can see all the devices here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit on the tools. We've got a 17 socket. We've got a 17 impact gun with the half-inch drive, an 18, a 21 millimeter, and then wrenches 15 millimeter. That's the spinning one, and then also an 18 spinning one, although you don't need those necessarily, just takes less time. We got a 21 and a 22 inch wrench. These are huge, and I would use these together to try to push them together as one long arm to make the leverage a little easier. Of course, the Rough Country kit, and like I said, I actually used 3 jacks at one point total, and like probably 3 jack stands also at one point. But depends how you want to do it. So hope that helps. Of course, you want to make sure your wheels are chalked, and I set the handbrake right here, pulling that back, and I've also got some jack stands, some little puny jacks as a backup, but mostly I'll be using my big fat jack right here. Love this jack. If you saw my video from Branson, Missouri, where I swapped wheels with the guy who had these ones, and I gave him my 22s or my 20s that came with it. Used the same jack. Great jack, heavy duty, not too expensive. It is heavy though. Wheels chalked. Once you've got the wheels chalked and your parking brake is set, go under here and you look for the jacking point for the Lightning. I think the jacking points are different, so if you're used to working on regular F-150s, be warned, there's a little arrow in the frame. Here it is right here. If you're used to working on regular F-150s, just notice that this one's a little different. Alright, you see I've got it lined up with the arrow, and that's the spot you want with that arrow. Now that you got the jack in place and you've slightly lifted the truck, now is when I normally like to break off the lug nuts using a hand wrench. But I've got this really nice DeWalt impact gun, so I don't need to do it now. But if you're using a hand wrench, I would do that now, break these lug nuts off so that the wheel doesn't spin when it's off the ground. Alright, this impact gun is loud, so I use headphones to stop that sound from hurting my ears. And that's going to be a 21 millimeter socket for the wheels. Now that it's completely off the ground, I can take these off the rest of the way. I left a few on there just in case it fell, or it was still mounted, or in case it was not quite off the ground yet. I didn't want to loosen the lug nuts all the way. Now, you should remember, if you're putting big tires on at the same time after the lift, leave a little extra distance here so that not only when you set it down on the jack stands, which you should do, we'll lose some height there, but also later when you put the tall tires on, you're going to want a bit more space before laying the truck down so you can get the big tires on. I'm not doing the big tires yet. I've got them. I've got some 35s going on this thing, but today I'm not doing that, so it doesn't matter so much. Do leave enough space though so you can lower the jack stands down without risking the
truck falling on you, and also so that when you put the tires back on later, if you want to, you'll have enough space to put the tires back on, even without using the jack. All right, wheel is off. I am actually going to go to the other side and jack up that side as well, with a jack stand on this side and a jack stand on the other side. This way, the whole front of the truck is off, easier to work on, but also so things like the sway bar aren't under tension, and it all should be loose and even on both sides. So I'm going to do that next, but obviously not required to do just the left side. All right, I've got it jack standed under the frame, barely. This huge jack doesn't leave a lot of room to put the jacks in under there as well. I've got it jacked up, and I've got the other side jacked up as well. So at least the sway bar is generally slack with no tension in it. So I'm going to start on this side now. So the plan here is to remove this tie rod, of course, the 2 bolts under here, 1, 2, that hold the strut to the bottom. Got the front one for the control arm, I guess. The back one you can see also in red down there. The 3 bolts on top. Sway bar right here. I loosened up some of these cables, so we'll see how that goes. The gas version says there's some power steering line I got to disconnect from the diff. I'm trying to avoid that if I even have that one, so I'm ignoring that for now. Alright, this tie rod here is a 21. Again, just like the wheels. Alright, so I've got the big ones back here done. I've got the sway bar done. Tie rod, and then I've got these ones loose too, front and back. So the only thing keeping this in place now is this. I'm hoping to avoid taking that off. I'm going to kind of step on the bottom arm here and see if I can slide it out a little more. That might be enough to get it out. We'll see. I might have to... Oh, okay. It's okay. It moves more than I thought. So before I put too much strain on these guys, I'm going to take these nuts off up here. These 3. And then I'm hoping if I maybe step on this at the same time I'm pulling this up and out, I can slip it out that way. The rough country instructions, I should point out, they ask that you take off the brake caliper and the rotor and this nut and stuff like that and get it all out. I'm trying to avoid all that. This truck's under warranty. I'm trying to be as unintrusive as possible and do as little work as possible like normal. So let's give it a go with these ones up here, right there. All right, the ones up top here are 18. Normally I used a regular box end, but I don't have an 18 box end, so I got to use this one with a spinner end. I'm kind of worried I'm going to break it, but hopefully since it's a new truck, it won't break off. Wish me luck. All right. First one worked. That last one's going to be a bear to get to, but at least I didn't break it yet. All right, second one loose. Wish me luck on the third one. Last one. Oh, it's not even hard to get to. Man, this is pretty easy to work on, especially with no rust. All right, I'm just gonna loosen these up and we'll be all set with the top. Arms at the bottom, the strut bolts at the bottom are 18. And it's 21 also for the sway bar link.
couldn't get my air gun in there, so I will use a box end wrench with an extension. Ah, that wasn't so bad. Alright, this keeps spinning. I'm not actually really doing anything, I'm just spinning the nut and the bolt together. So I'm going to use some vice grips right here, which is spinning. Can you see that right here? There. And that way I can hold on to the bolt while I'm spinning like this. Works great. Big arms at the bottom, they appear to be 27. Yeah, 27. Hopefully I can get my gun on there. I do not want to do that by hand. And then to hold the bolt on to the front, so the front doesn't spin, I've got a 21 box end, just like the 21 we used earlier for this guy. I love this DeWalt. This thing's awesome. One out. All right, hammered this guy out, and there we go. This one's out too. So now you can see it's pretty loose. All right, these top bolts are off. They weren't too bad using my 18mm ratchet wrench. So now, theoretically, this is loose enough. I should hopefully be able to yank this strut out. Let's see what I can do. Yes, easy. That was easy, guys. Taking off the rotor and all that stuff, no way. I don't see how it was necessary. So, awesome win. Awesome win. Now, to put the new hat on this guy right here. This is the page we want, 2014 and up. What I'm doing is probably applicable to a lot of gas models as well, but here's what we need to do here. It's worth noting that it says for the 2014 and up model, you're going to want to do the A side out for both struts. So you stick it on the strut and make sure the A side is out. Let's see what that means. Oh, here it is. A side out. Right there underneath where it says RC. Alright, in order to get the A side facing out and all three bolts visible, I had to spin this around like this. So I think it's going to go back in backwards or reverse of where it was, with the sticker on the outside facing the wheel and 180 degrees from where it was. Otherwise, either A side wouldn't be out, or I wouldn't see these three bolts sticking through. So just be aware that you might have to flip it around 180, despite what I said earlier, in order to make A side out on a 2014 and newer and all three of these visible. So next I'm going to put on these washers, not the lock washers, those come later. Lock washers are here. Up here is just regular washers and the 10mm Nylocks, which I'm guessing are these. So they're going to go on top of there, and I got my torque wrench here. I'm going to torque those down to 30 foot-pounds. And don't forget, before you put this hat onto the top of the strut, got to put these bolts through as well. The bottoms, there's no washer, because as you can see, there's a locking thing, a hex head locker. So no need for a washer on the bottom. Can I do this puzzle? Boom. And then washers will go on top of here as well as here. All right, with
the regular washers here on the low parts. All 3 holes have a bolt through them, of course, and I've got the new bolts on top in the correct orientation in the right holes. Note that there's multiple holes here to get it wrong, so make sure you follow the picture for your application. And then this will, of course, be tightened down to 30 foot-pounds with the Nylock nuts here. And after 30 foot-pounds is torqued, then all this will go back up into the fender area of the truck. All right, we're at 30 foot-pounds on the old trusty torque wrench. I'll tighten these down to 30, and then we'll be in business to put this back into the truck. Just because it's probably easier to show you now rather than when the vehicle, the strut's in the vehicle. These go back into the holes, of course, into the strut mount at the top. I'm thinking the orientation goes like this, and then this, and then nut on top. So basic washer on the bottom, lock nut, and then nut on top, and then these of course go through, and we've got the foundation here holding it all together to the truck. So I'm checking again, A side out on the spacer here, A side out, making sure that's correct. I'll feed this up into here, hopefully the holes align. I'm gonna go grab those nuts. So if I do get one on, I can easily slip on. I'll do the washers later. All right, trying again. Just so I'm ready in case I do get these in. I can put a nut on it quickly. A side out. I think it's in. Whoop. Yes, it is. I'm gonna put one on there to hang it, maybe 2. Hopefully without losing these nuts into the abyss. Obviously just do this finger tight for now. Uh-oh. 2, and for good measure, so don't hurt anything, hopefully 3. I guess it's probably excessive to have 3 nuts on here while I'm configuring it, but while I'm jiggling with it, but it's nice to protect the threads and have 3 points of contact as I wrestle this in. Okay, so now I'm going to step down on the control arm again, or push down or something, and see if I can get it in place. It's close. It's already close. Alright. So I've got the 3 up top. They're hanging on there by a few threads. These are placed. I think I'll get a 3rd jack now. Yes, I have 3 jacks. And jack up from the bottom so I can get these threads to protrude from down here and get some thread, some nuts on those threads too. And then everything will kind of be in place. Then I have to remember to take these off one by one, put the washers and lock washers back on, and then cinch them back down. But not so bad, not so bad. Missing its bar there on the other side. See that hanging down? But it's not load bearing, so it should be okay. I'm not lifting the truck or anything, just positioning this A-arm, so it doesn't have to be a perfect jack for this job. Way easier with a jack. I bet I could have manhandled this myself, but why bother if I've got a jack? All right, one of the threads
is showing on the bottom. So I'll put a nut on that one, and then I'll reposition it. Is that it? Yeah, this one, and then I'll reposition it so I can get this one on. Alright, in the course of adjusting it to get these two nuts on, I managed to wiggle it around and both threads shot through, so it was real easy to get these on. If you're trying to figure out which one of the pairs of nuts this is, it's the smaller of the two pairs. The bigger of the two are for the tie rod here and whatever the other one was. So it's the smaller of the two. I'm going to leave them loose as well. Don't forget to go back up here and do the washers up here. You can do them one at a time, but actually all three of them are showing loose threads, so they're supported from the bottom, but still I'm gonna do them maybe two at a time and leave one of them always attached so that it doesn't slip back out again. Okay, again, these are the lock washers and regular washers I showed you earlier. Two regulars. Alright, before I tighten these bottom ones, I'm going to try to attempt to get these big honkering ones back in their holes so I have a little bit of looseness to play with. I'm going to reattach these ones here and then tighten these ones down here once everything's buttoned up. Same with the tie rod too and the sway bars. I'll probably do everything kind of loosey-goosey and then go around and tighten everything up all at once. That way it's easier to position. Alright, with all that maneuvering and janky jacking and stuff, I was able to get these on, so I'll tighten these down with the air gun, tighten these guys down underneath the strut with the air gun, tighten these guys down with the wrench again, and then we'll do tie rod and sway bar and tighten those down too. Huh. This is going to be harder to get. For some reason it's got tension on it now. Maybe the other side has sagged a little bit on the jack, so might need to adjust that a little bit, but we'll get it down. Alright, well the rough country instructions say they're 17 mil, but these are clearly 15 mil, so just be warned. They both say 17, 17, but two of these are 15. Like I said, these are 15 millimeter, not 17 and not 18, so be prepared to have your 15-inch wrench ready. Remember to not tighten these down yet. You want to use your 30 foot-pounds of torque wrench. 30 pounds there, and then on the bottom, let's see, can this wiggle? Alright. I'm going to put the gun on these things again. Tighten these down with the gun. Alright, I got everything tightened. Well, I got everything attached, not tightened. These are still loose. But I got the sway bar in. I did have to jack up the arm. Let me get a better angle. I did have to jack up the whole control arm to get the sway bar to match up again. These are still loose, obviously. Tie rod's loose, but everything's situated and loosened, and I think I'm in pretty good shape. Putting these ties back in, easy step here, and I'm gonna go around. Of course, I don't want to forget those ones too. Those are still loose, the red ones, and I'll update you again when we get everything tightened. I'm gonna check the torque specs on the instructions here and see if they have a torque recommendation. So we talked about
These ones are 75 pounds. Nothing about Torx otherwise. Here's the CV stuff we didn't do. I'm so glad we didn't do this stuff. Look at, they disconnected the brake lines, took the axle out. No thanks. I don't know. Maybe this is just a lightning thing, but we didn't have to do that. And then don't remove the crash bar, but we'll see how my 35s fit. I'm not removing those things. Anyway, back to it. Starting to tighten everything down. This is the last torque spec I see, so I guess that's it. And maybe the factory manual or something has it. Anyways, back to it. Here we go. Rough Country helpfully included not only the tools list, but also the torque specs list. So you can have these here. Pause if you need to. So we should be good there. Here we are. We've got 2 inches leveling kit installed. I'm very happy with how it looks already. Ask me again after I drive it. I'm sure the alignment's way off and awful, but in terms of looks, it's fantastic. Exactly what I wanted. Exactly what it said on the box. So it's almost like I don't even need 35s on it yet. I mean, I'm happy with it, with how it is. I might decide to mount my 35s to like a junkier spare set of wheels and keep this set up for longer distance driving and maybe a mix of everyday driving and towing, because these wheels are rated at a higher strength than regular gas F-150 wheels. And just maybe doing a combination of swapping wheels out every now and then. It kind of sucks swapping the wheels out, so I don't know, I'll think about it, but I'm gonna go off to an alignment. Just Tire says they can take me right now and get me aligned. So I'll update you guys more with pictures and stuff later once I get it aligned and the suspension settles down a little bit, so you can see truly before and after what this thing looks like height-wise.